Well, I am really excited to have Craig Jordison in the Fully Alive studio this week. I met Craig over 10 years ago when he, and catch this, 12 ladies. Craig, 12 ladies did the very first Followers Made group outside of the church where Disciples Made was born. That's a story in and of itself. But before we get there, let me just tell you a little bit about him. He's an entrepreneur in the operations type of industry. He's got extensive experience in the food distribution industry as an operator. He also has a huge passion for making and multiplying disciples. I invited Craig onto the Fully Live podcast today because of something that he showed me in our triad time a couple of weeks ago, and that is a personal vision and mission statement. This is someone that everyone can do, and it's going to be a huge benefit. And Craig is the perfect person to learn it from. So, Craig, welcome to the Fully Alive studio.
Thank you.
I'm excited, man. So fun. That story does go way back, and all of a sudden, I'm on the back porch of Patty Bowie's house.
Yep.
Going, what is this guy's problem? I mean, what is
Yep.
I've given a little bit of introduction of who you are professionally, but tell us a little bit more about yourself personally, families, hobbies, joys, whatever it is you want to share.
Sure. Well, I am honored to be married to my super beautiful wife. Her name is Lisa. We've been married 17 years. Got 3 grown children and 5 grandchildren.
Woo.
And not all by Lisa, but honestly, the food service industry and business has been my life since I was 13 years old. And, for me personally, from a hobby perspective, uniquely, like I have shared with you in the past, Lisa and I live in Kansas City, but I work in Ohio. So the last 5 years now, I've flown back and forth every other week. Joys and hobbies. I'm an avid scuba diver, man. I just love being underwater. It is heaven on earth to me. It is quiet. It is serene. It's heavenly. I feel the spirit, not unlike the mountains, but there's something highly unique to being able to breathe underwater for an hour and just to hear your bubbles and to look at the fish and to look at the things and just feel God's presence literally underwater. So
I learned something new about Craig today. That's cool.
Yeah.
Very, very cool. All right. So tell us a little bit about this first Followers Made, just to make sure I made this clear. Disciples Made was kind of born inside of the church where I was serving, Westside Family Church. It had grown into several generations, and then churches around the Kansas City metro started asking, we want to get in on that. How do we do that? And so y'all were the pilot group outside of Westside Family Church.
Yep.
And I get there we don't have any videos. We don't have any app. We have nothing but paper. And I said, I'll come out and do a typical information huddle for y'all. We did that on Patty's back porch, and I see one guy, 12 ladies. Tell us, what in the world were you thinking? And how did that go?
No, that's a great question. Hey, man, I got to be honest with you. It was a life changer. And, the gender element aside, I was with 12 other beautiful people that I learned a lot from. At that time, there was a flame that was just waiting to be ignited. And through the experience, and not knowing it was wrong to have one guy with 12 girls, a couple of things I learned is I learned to cry, and now I'm an incessant crier. I cry at the end of a Super Bowl game, no matter who wins or loses. The experience was one that just formed not just a spiritual foundation for me, but it took the literal idea that there was a flame, but what fuel is going to light it? And that was knowledge. That was having the ability to work and to grow with others simultaneously in this experience. And it was like jet fuel.
Mm.
We spent 6 months, and by the time that experience was over, it was literally at that time I was 10 feet above the ground and waiting for I was just waiting, just dying for the next step, because I learned so much and grew so much in that time frame.
Mm.
So all joking aside, and I know a lot of people can share that their first DM experience was one that was a life changer. For me, it's changed everything.
Wow.
So that's the truth. So
That's big, man. That's really, really big. So grateful. Yeah, thousands of people have been through Followers Made, and the story is the same amongst people who were invited properly, kept all those commitments, and just really engaged that new lifestyle that leads you to become dependent upon Jesus through His Spirit and Bible engagement and all these other things that are a part of it. That flame, as you said, has led you to want to volunteer your time and support the leadership and the direction of Disciples Made. So at this point, tell everybody about, I'm going to use a term they may not know, your EOS background. Like, what is that? And
sure,
how is that EOS background equip you to play that important role with us, a facilitator of meetings, and now within the last year, the regular facilitator of our board of directors?
sure. Well, I mean, honestly, it started 35 years ago, and it was really, to me, it was Stephen Covey driving
Yeah.
around as a outside salesperson, selling food for a living, and I didn't want to burn my time listening to talk radio or farm radio, and so I chose to throw cassettes in. I started with 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey.
Mm.
Fast forward 30 years, and I was introduced um, to a book by a fellow disciple maker grad, um, to a book written by a guy named Gino Wickman, who basically took some of the top 10 or 12 top shelf books, including 7 Habits, and really distilled it down into a business. It's an operating platform called Traction. Exactly.
That might be it right there.
Yep.
Just happened to have
And
it on my desk.
yep, it's a book that answered 20 years of trying to do business and trying to get better, and naturally understanding there was elements of good ideas, but where Gino Wickman in this case packaged it into an operating system. And the operating system is one that focuses on the primary attributes of business, but it's also applicable in church environments. It's applicable in any environment because it focuses on the way we treat people, the clarity of understanding who we are, what we're here for, what our purpose is, and how do we best go about doing it other than just blind energy or faith. It's
Mm.
about accountability. It's about measurables. It's about clarity towards the mission and achieving the mission. Um, and that's really that's how I got connected to EOS. And then we've actually in our company in Ohio have used it for 5.5 years, and it's the DNA of our whole organization.
Mm.
We
Mm.
can't operate without it anymore.
So I'm assuming that there's a couple of things that our listeners might have in common. Two things in particular. The first, we all know what it means to not be on the same page with others, even in something as small as our family or as large as a large corporation that we might work for. The second thing that we might have in common is that we don't know what EOS stands for or traction. I mentioned, I showed the book. EOS
Oh,
is, I believe it's Entrepreneur's Operating System.
yeah, Entrepreneurial Operating System. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Yep.
And everything you said makes absolute sense to me. If it doesn't make sense for listeners, it is basically a set of principles and structures that help everybody get on and stay on the same page so that there's no, metal clanging as the organization tries to work forward. together. So it just makes things a whole lot more efficient, a lot more practical, a lot more clear, and there's less room for arguments because
Yep.
everything is just right there. So that leads us, though, Craig. That's the perfect background for helping people understand uh, where we're headed with our topic today. And our topic is kind of establishing and maintaining and the benefits of having a personal mission statement, which is a part of EOS. So I think your EOS training and experience, my assumption anyway, that EOS training and experience led you to create a personal vision and mission statement. So what is this statement and why was it important for you to create in the first place?
Sure. Well, quite honestly, it was even pre EOS and pre Gino Wickman that in 2017, so 7 years ago, when I built this statement, it was really founded on multiple things. One, I'd been challenged um, by others and by other books I was reading, the value of a personal mission statement. Simon Sinek is somebody else I really enjoy because he's somebody that, again, makes things very simple,
Oh,
very
he's good.
straightforward, and powerfully understanding the psychology underneath growth personally and I believe spiritually. So um, clearly, it is a foundational element. We can't even begin to implement the EOS process at all without some of the key foundational pieces. So one of those, as an organization, you have to have a very clear value set. Very, very important because it becomes the internal compass for people to make decisions.
Mhm.
So they can maintain the ability to have autonomy. It's the foundation with a mission and a vision. So the mission being, this is who we are. And the vision is, this is who we really strive to be. So,
Mm.
so over the years, when I recognized the need for this for me personally, I decided it was time post the first disciples made process because my life changed. Um, my whole spiritual mission, vision, values statement today that really hasn't changed much in the last 7 years because I tweak it about every year, but it would have been completely opposite 12 or 15 years ago. And I
Wow.
give disciples made the reason because at that time and before that, it was very selfish, all about me, all about success, all about climbing a ladder, all about achievement, and all about me, blah, blah, blah. And once I really understood through a series of assessments the way how I was wired. So that I needed that to understand. Once I understood my wiring, then it was critical that my days are limited. So I want to make the most out of those days left on this earth to make an impact in the way that God wired and shaped me, and how to utilize my spiritual gifts to glorify Him and to advance the kingdom.
Man, I love it. I love it. I want to make an observation here. Some of our listeners might be thinking traction, EOS, that's all business stuff. Business and church and spiritual things, it should all be separated or whatnot. And what I just heard you say really challenges that. You can use EOS or a traction process or anything that's similar to it for either personal gain or God gain. The
I
tool is
believe that.
neutral. How you use the tool is what is either righteous or not righteous. Would that be a fair assessment?
I believe it is. Pure energy alone will
Yeah.
light the room, but it doesn't light the fire. And
Mm.
so the clarity behind the mission vision with the clarity of values and then goals, plans, and the ability to achieve a setup strategy, at that point, just really literally followed up with how a person or an organization, whether it's a church or whether it's a business, solving problems is something every organization goes through.
Right.
EOS's primary attribute is helps organizations be extremely effective and much more effective than they were prior to solving problems.
Gotcha.
And those companies or businesses or organizations that solve problems, the most effectively or the most successful,
Yeah.
whatever
They're the
their
ones that stick
choice of
around.
success measurement is.
I
So
love it. All right, so let's move more away from EOS. I know it's going to continue to shape the rest of this conversation, but more toward the actual vision statement or mission statement that people can have for their lives. Because the reason I wanted to do this podcast is I wanted people to hear the value of having said statement and be able to have the fundamental elements of a process to actually create one for themselves, if so inspired,
sure.
and experience the benefits that you have. So let's start at this kind of high level question. What was the process at a very high level that you went through just to build this document? What did that look like?
Sure. So there are all kinds of tools available on the internet to build a mission statement, a vision statement. Um, and I used them. I had to, I want to find the best way to get to the end result. Um,
Great
but,
feedback.
I think the core of the mission statement, as an example, the core of the mission statement is founded on how I want to be known. And that's not through my thoughts or my wishes, but it's through my actions. So to hold myself accountable, myself in check against why I exist, which really spells out my mission. The vision is the element that is laid out that says, I want to get better at this. I want to be known for this eventually, but I definitely want to keep this in the forefront of, in the light of change and the speed of change in our world today. How do I stay grounded
Hmm.
towards what I chose in this case 7 years ago? That hasn't really changed because I know it's God honoring. I know it's centered around my spiritual gifts. How do I ultimately achieve what everybody wants to know is why am I here and what is my purpose?
Okay.
Once I understand it's not about me, then it is about others and it is about glorifying him. How do I continue to gain knowledge and build needed spiritual disciplines? I mean, literally, in the last 12 years, the idea of reading scripture daily um, it took me 7 years to build a habit. Not going to lie, it just took a long time, and that's daily. And I'm proud to say that for 3.5 years, 4 years now, I've had a chance to fulfill that. And so it is deeply rooted inside of my DNA. I do not miss a single day without starting my day with my quiet time, with scripture. Um, and again, now distilling it down, I'm hearing and I'm getting, I'm the knowledge I'm gaining isn't just knowledge. Now it's what I seek more than anything, which is wisdom,
Hmm.
because the impact I have is going to be founded in my knowledge. I really believe it's going to be in making wise decisions for the company I get a chance to work with, and for those that I love. And quite honestly, um, the the idea that I didn't understand what the fruit of the spirit even was 10 years ago, and today knowing that it is that consistent battle between my own selfishness and flesh and the gift of Jesus and the Holy Spirit, I get a chance to live inside my heart, to know there is a difference between my heart and my head. To know this is founded on this statement because this statement is my framework to be able to reflect upon in order to assure that I'm on track and that I haven't come off track and that I stay on track. But as time changes, I have tweaked some elements, but the elements haven't been foundational changes. It's more vernacular because it more applies to what's happening in my season of life at this point. So
So I understood all the elements of that. I want to go back and make sure that I succinctly can hear. That way, I can know the listeners can hear the process you went through to build this. And what I heard was you took time, highly influenced by daily engagement with Jesus through his word, highly influenced by trusted friends to create the mission statement first, which was, this is who I am and who I want to be and known to be. And then a vision statement that says, here's where I want to, here's who I want to become over time. So that's kind of where I'm headed.
Yep.
And then you brought in some values that were kind of the constraints that would shape your life, that would allow you to just, incrementally adapt this, not change it wholesale, but adapt it over time. So it was kind of a mission, vision, values process. Am I hearing that correctly so
Yes.
far?
The only thing I'd add to that, Brian, would be just the idea of the validation of my spiritual gifts and understanding kind of their priority. And I know they can shift around to a degree, but not the primary one.
Okay.
I mean, in my life, I've yet to see where my primary one has changed. So,
Okay.
so where I'm able to balance my spiritual gifts against my calling, which is founded with inside of my mission and my vision,
Got it.
then I believe I have some purpose that's very clear in life balance at that point.
Okay, so that's really really helpful, and that was getting kind of at the question that I had in my head was what were the major components? We've kind of spelled that out: mission, vision, values, and then it was, how did you arrive at those? And it sounds as if understanding your spiritual gifts and a sense of personal calling highly informed all of that, and continues to inform
Yes.
year after year as there's regular reevaluation. What else has gone in to inform those? You did answer regular engagement with Bibles and whatnot, because the Bible teaches us what to believe and how to live, etc. But what else would inform those things?
Well, I'd say two things. One, life experiences. All right, let's
Yeah,
face it.
yeah,
Life experiences. Um, uh, and I'd say when I look at the formation and understanding that when I'm in my happy place, when I'm in the zone, when I feel like I'm at the peak spiritually, which everything falls behind it, physically, mentally, socially. It's when I know I. It's one thing to have daily scripture um, strategy. It's another thing to check and challenge being fruitful. And in my world, it's about being fruitful to discipling primarily to men. Um, then that becomes what we all need, which is a measurement against growth.
yeah,
So, but
yeah.
being fruitful is a core part of it.
Love it. Uh, a little shameless plug here. One tool that you can use that's readily available and free in the Fully Alive by Disciples Made app is the My Impact equation. You just look
Yep.
under assessments in the navigation bar, you click that, and that can be the grid by which you measure yourself for the rest of your life. And basically, it takes 5, maybe 10 minutes if you take a long time to think through things. And you just rate 18 questions on a scale of 1 to 10. You look at, where are the lowest answers? Where's my lowest scores? And then if those can be a very easy to access and use standard by which to help create the mission, vision, and values. I love it. So
Yep.
let's talk about some practical things here. How do you use this statement on an ongoing basis? Is that a weekly review, a monthly review, an annual review? How does that work?
Yeah. Well, in the worst case, it'd be at the end of each year when I prepare to reflect and to recognize if I've, when I started the year, this is what I had laid out for goals, and I do list out goals every year that I want to achieve, spiritual goals, health goals, family goals, financial goals. Um, but I have to reflect on this, and I do reflect. But in this case, it's one of those things I obviously carry with me. I don't
Hmm.
I don't go around sharing with a lot of people because I didn't build this to glorify me or to raise myself up. I did it because I need as much help as I can get.
For sure. Yeah, I get that. Yeah.
And and because I'm a high energy person and I'm action oriented, it's like I look at it this way: when you shoot the rocket to the moon, and if you come off two degrees in the first 80 feet of flight, you could end up in Mars, you know? So I just know I'm as a fast paced guy, I gotta stay on track. So this gets pulled out, no less than once a quarter, reviewed, prayed over,
Got it.
refined.
Okay, so at minimum it's annual, and at the annual you're looking at doing those tweaks. I
Yep.
assume,
Yep.
and then it's always on your mind, and there might be a quarterly. There's a hope that there's at least a quarterly alignment, to use
Yes.
an automobile term. For me, Thanksgiving is the annual time that triggers my end of year stuff. What triggers you're like, oh, it's time to do my personal goals and stuff? You have something that
Sure.
triggers
Yep.
that?
I usually do it the last couple weeks of the calendar year is when I
Okay,
typically do it.
so around Christmas and
Yep.
New Year
Yep.
holiday.
For sure.
Perfect.
Yep.
That just helps people like me that aren't as organized to just have what are those annual trigger points that come around. Cool. So you've been following Jesus and pursuing his fully alive life for a really long time. What would you say would be the biggest difference in your personal transformation? What you see in yourself, others see in you, that have happened since the development of the personal statement?
And my answer would be not just a hope, but what I've been told. But um, it's not about me. It's not about me achieving. It's just that I'm able to live what I know God laid in my heart. My number one primary spiritual gift of exhortation is I love to build people up.
Mm,
So when I know that's where my joy is, it takes my mind off of me at that point because I find joy in that. I'm a better listener.
mm,
I look at people desperately to try to see people through God's eyes,
mm,
and I can sense the love that He has for them. And then when I can approach people, certainly with empathy, certainly with understanding, but they know I'm speaking with them, whether it's in a business setting or in a personal setting. Um, it's from it's I'm speaking to their heart, and I know that's where God spends His time with us
mm,
as well. So I would say that the idea that the fruit of the spirit is a good demarking point of if that's pouring out of me, and I'd say that my patience has grown dramatically. Um, my peace, because I know my spot, I know my purpose.
mm,
Um, kindness, I was never really a problem for me. Gentleness was to a degree. Um, love is number one, and that's where I try to see it through God's eyes.
mm,
Um, and the idea that that I can potentially feel way somebody feels and they believe me because my agenda, that's probably the biggest demarcation point. I just don't have an agenda anymore.
mm.
My agenda is not my agenda. My agenda becomes his agenda and their agenda. And if I can match those two things together, then my purpose has been fulfilled and
Mm.
I'm happy.
Bro, you just listed a lot of things that I think a lot of people want. And I want to point out just one little piece of it. You got real specific on mission there, and unless I was somehow thinking of something else when you said it, it's the first time you've done it on this call. You've got, if I remember reading your document correctly, you have a 2-word mission statement. What if it's not two, it's three or four? Well, what is the very specific mission?
Yeah, well, it's my purpose statement, and it's a
Purpose.
two-word purpose statement.
That's what I'm looking
And it was
for.
an exercise I went through. It was quite interesting, and because of how beautiful to make it easy to give me two words. But mine is inspire hope. Through a series of questions, it plotted back to me. My purpose on this earth is to inspire hope. It's like nailed it. That's why. That's my purpose. And you know
Mm,
what? I I do this all the time with people, and mainly at work. But fear and doubt are extremely strong emotions. And I see people now, we all see
And
people
anxiety. Yeah.
with fear and doubt, and it's a driving force. But I believe with all my heart, and I know with all my heart, the only the only emotion that trumps it in stronger is hope.
Mm,
And I want to
mm.
be the hope dealer. Okay. I want to be the person that's inspiring hope. It's not just blue sky. It's not just blind faith. There's a
Yeah.
reason to have
It's
hope.
real.
So
It's real. I love it. Okay. Thank you. That helps. And then, of course, mission, vision, values, everything flows out of that and ladders up to it.
yes,
And the phrase I use in my life is that's the North Star. I mean,
yes,
that's not my North Star. It's mine's similar to that, but that's the North Star that just governs and guides everything. And what you've said is having clarity on that North Star has been the perhaps energy and motivation to create the document and to regularly attend the document and to stay faithful and tweak that forward. Am I catching all that
yep.
correctly?
I think you hit
Okay.
it. Yep.
Very, very cool. All right. So let's assume that somebody is listening to this podcast and they're thinking, okay, I want to start building one of those. What are the first steps? Like, think real basic here. What are the first steps? What do they do? Do they grab a piece of paper? Do they find a dark room? Like, do they get coffee?
Yeah.
How would you start this thing?
Well, I think everybody wants to know their purpose,
Yeah.
and they can't know their purpose unless they know themselves. So I just strongly recommend assessments. And the more you understand through assessments, and many of them are free, just like the ones you've talked about with inside of DM. But whether it's the DISC assessment, the more you understand about yourself, the less frustration you'll have with not understanding other people.
That's
So
well said. Can you say that again?
sure.
What?
So I think the more we understand about ourselves, the less frustrated we get by not understanding other people.
Can I put you on pause and unpack that just a little
Yep.
bit? I think that is so critical. When I started, I'll mention another test that I took, an assessment back in college, the Myers-Briggs
Mm-hmm.
personality assessment. Not only did I have very enlightening insight as to who I was, I learned how I was unique from other people because they didn't have the same letters that I did. And that category itself was just mind blowing. It's like, oh, not everybody's designed to be just like me. And
Mm-hmm.
I knew that, but I didn't have a way to see it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I could actually get descriptions of what other people were like and go, oh, that's what Bob's like. And that's what my friend Dwight was like. And that girl that I dated, that's what I mean, it's like, oh, okay. And then I could start to see value in other people. So I'm just unpacking that kernel. If you
Mm-hmm.
haven't done that, you, you're cutting yourself short of a massive amount of self-awareness and how you can team up and partner with other people. So unpause. I just had to get that out, man. That's
Sure.
so big for people.
Yeah. Look, I started a reading habit of 10 to 25 books a year 20 years ago. I swore after college I'd never read another book again, and I couldn't have been more wrong. And so the reason I bring that up is because self awareness comes from gaining wisdom of what we choose to read. But at that, in the nature of that, it was heavy towards leadership. Leadership is a lot of self awareness and with others. For anybody that wants to build out a spiritual, and many people have been challenged to build a spiritual mission statement. Where do I even start? Literally, Google build a personal spiritual mission statement. There are plenty of roadmaps to get you started because until, in my opinion, and I'm not sure which author that said this, but I believe this, until you crystallize it in your subconscious by writing it down, it's only a wish. It's got to get written down. So write something down. Start somewhere and then continue to build upon that. Start with the mission statement of who you are, what your purpose is as you see it. And at that point, then the vision statement, I certainly understand the value of if you have to understand your spiritual gifts assessments, very crucial in this setting, in my opinion, because a lot of the values to me were spelled out with inside of understanding my spiritual gifts.
Mm.
And I want to say one other thing. Whether we're in business, no matter what we're in, whether we're whether we're just heading to the grocery store, we're making hundreds of decisions every day. And if we are not guided by a North Star is one thing, but a core of what we've decided to be or call out as our values, that's your decision making process.
Mm-hmm.
Life becomes a lot simpler when I've got a decision making process that is formed by, if all I did was like, I'm challenged by this, but read my values, the answer will come out. So,
Got it. So I've got another quick shameless commercial plug here. Our GPS assessment is
yeah.
another free assessment that's inside of the Fully Alive app. It stands for Gifts, Passion, Story, and it helps triangulate that personal calling that God has on your life. So I'd encourage folks to go to that because that can highly inform the what, kind of the mission. But when it comes to values, it's if you're having trouble kind of comprehending what Craig is saying about how if you structure your values, that's your decision making tool
Mm-hmm.
framework to do that. There's a little book, isn't it called "What the Heck is EOS?" And with that
Mm-hmm.
little book, that's
Yep.
probably a 30-minute to a 90-minute read.
Yep.
Would that really help people grab how to create a value set and even mission, vision, values?
Yeah, I think that book in itself, if it may not be the complete uh, guide to build it, but you have to understand what you're building at the same time. So it's one thing with me, I have all the architecture, but it's really important that wherever anybody's at any given time, what the heck is EOS? Easy read. It's written for anybody at any education level to be able to
Yeah.
understand and comprehend and be able to take things to the next step. So
Did Gino Wickman write that one as well, or did someone
he
else take
co-authored
that?
it. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. So you can Google what the heck is EOS or Google Traction by Gino Wickman and find those resources.
Yep.
All right, let's start to wrap this thing down. What have I not asked that I should have asked about this whole practice that we're talking about, writing a personal mission, vision, value statement?
I really believe that we've covered everything that hopefully would resonate with
Perfect.
one person and help them grow. Um, but I got to ask this question because I think about this one a lot in an interview like this. Brian, if you could go back to a younger version of yourself, 25, 30 years ago, and if you could have done anything different, how would you answer that question?
Huh. The one I just asked you about the what have I not asked? The advantage that I had, and I hope that this is valuable to the folks listening in. The advantage that I had is I was haunted by two things from a very like mid-20s area, which is longer than 30 years ago, which was your time frame. That was the constraint you gave me there. Um, Haunted by two things. First was Erickson's life stages, which if you've not read a summary article on Erickson's life stages, I would highly recommend it, particularly if you're older than 30 and listening to this. And the further you get along, the more important it is. Because essentially the last of the stages that Erickson talks about is you'll either live with integrity or despair. By the
Mm,
time you get to the point in your life where you can't generate a new story that's yours, or join, more importantly, join into the story that God has actually written for you, and you were going off script on the wrong stuff, like you were talking about earlier, you used to use these tools for a more personal gain kind of deal. Once you get to the age where you can't participate in writing the story of your life, um, and if you didn't do it well, you look back on your life and say, I wish I'd have spent more time at home instead of all the time at the office, or I wish I would have what. That's living with despair.
yes.
If you can look back onto your life and know, I knew what I was supposed to do, I did it, I stayed in alignment with it. I didn't do it perfectly, but boy, I had that drivetrain. I had that North Star. I had that plan. I had that mission and vision and the values that shape my daily decisions. And for the most part, I lived it. I'm looking back with integrity. And I saw enough people as a young pastor who were at that stage of life living with so much regret. And I'm like, well, how do I structure my life in a way that I don't live with regret at that time? Should I be fortunate enough to live that long? So
Yes.
that was the first thing that kind of haunted me. And
Wow.
the second one was just being a student of the book of Ecclesiastes, because essentially Solomon is in that sixth stage when he writes the book. And God knew about these stages of life before Erickson, spelled them out and stuff. But basically Solomon, when he wrote Ecclesiastes, is looking back going, despair, 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 despair,
Mm-hmm.
despair. One integrity thing, know God and keep his commandments, fear the Lord and keep his commandments. It's like, I want to take the wisdom of Solomon and start applying it at 24
Wow.
instead of waiting until I'm 65. And it doesn't, and I'm well into the 2-minute warning of my life, or the last quarter, whatever we want to call it. So I had those advantages. But to finish answering your question, Craig, and I'm being more the interviewed than the interviewer here, so forgive my elongated response. What I did not have was the clarity of an EOS type structure. It was still more, I just want to be this. I don't want to waste it. And I know it kind of has these components, and they were the beginnings of calling, but I didn't have character. So if we talk about the fully alive approach to becoming a disciple of Jesus, it's all about developing that fruit of the Spirit. There's a character element, who I am, and then there's a calling element. What's the impact in the role I want to play in the world? So I wish, if 25, 30 years ago, I wish character times calling equals impact was a formula that drove my mission, vision, values way back
Too
then.
good. Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. Awesome.
Well, a couple of episodes ago, I started using this thing, and we may have already done it, but I was inspired on a walk one morning to, at the end of every podcast that I ever do, to kind of have an opportunity for a turn it back questions. And like I said, you may have already done this, but oftentimes when I'm being interviewed, questions pop up in my mind that I want to ask the interviewer. And so is there another turn it back question, or did you already take care of that on your own?
Yeah,
Or
I did it. No, that's good. That was the intent there. And let me just share this because you're my friend, and I love the story and how you shared it, because my life was almost the opposite, Brian. I was picking up all the business attributes 35, 40 years ago. I was a natural when it come to sales. I was a natural when it come to business acumen, but I didn't have a purpose. So while you had Solomon's wisdom, I had that, and now we're able to flip flop the two. And look what brought us together today. And I
Oh
think that's
man,
wonderful.
that really is. That is a powerful story. I have found that business acumen has helped me accomplish my spiritual goals and desires. It's just been a tool. And I've been grateful for people like you who have chosen to help me see those things more clearly and sharpen my mind. And oh my goodness, if you're a benefactor or a beneficiary of the Fully Alive ministry, whether through this podcast or some of the courses or content, whatever we have in the Fully Alive app, please know that this guy, Craig, is helping a board of directors and a staff stay on point, become better and more helpful to people like you. So Craig, in return, thank you so much for everything that you are doing.
My pleasure and my honor.
Yeah. And thanks for taking the time. I mean, you're a COO type of person, and you're cutting out time in the middle of a day of a week to join us and to make the sacrifice to encourage our folks. So thank you for that. Before we sign off with Craig, I just want to let you know, if you're listening to this before August 29th of 2024, and you happen to be someone who is trying to help this kind of spiritual activity happen in your church, I have a webinar I'd love for you to consider joining. It's called Work Smarter, Not Harder. It's a 2-hour webinar. It costs $39 to be a part of it. You can invite up to 3 people with that $39. And it's a way to understand how you can develop a system that helps render these type of outcomes that Craig is talking about in the lives of everyone in your church. Low commitment, high impact opportunity. We'll even offer next steps of how you can pursue that if the stuff makes sense to you. Again, August 29th, 2024. All you need to do is go to disciplesmade.com/training, and all the info is right there. That'll be down in the notes below. So again, thanks for tuning in, everybody. Craig, thank you for your time, and God bless you guys.
See you later.